Good afternoon. So, I made a couple videos a couple days ago about the problem with Ironjawz and how, like, the fact that they're not doing super great. And so here's my solution. Here's how I would fix Ironjawz. So before we fix any problem, we must first define that problem. So, brutes and ardboys are too slow, and this game is about movement. Pigs are very fast. They have a 9-inch move. So they kind of are just the best unit, you know? They deal good damage, they have lots of wounds, they take buffs really well, they're fast, they're reinforceable, they can line up in 6, they can turn their bases sideways, they have a lot of benefits that are going for them, and it doesn't really matter what you do with brutes and ardboys, they're too slow. They're just too slow. That's fundamentally, in a game about movement, speed matters a lot. So nerfing pigs is obviously not the right answer. Making the army worse does not make the army better, right? Duh. So let's not nerf the pigs. Settle down. Another guiding philosophy when it comes to making changes to rule sets, like in a complicated game like Age of Sigmar, for example, is you want to have... Oops. No! Spoiler alert! So, a guiding philosophy when it comes to making changes to any complicated system is you want to make the smallest possible changes and then observe the outcomes that come after that. So, you know, if like, I love the creativity, but I read all the time in Discords and comment sections and everything, people are like, oh, like, here's how you fix it. You rewrite all the war scrolls. It's like, well, like, yeah, like, we're going to get a new book eventually, but what do you do in the meantime? Games Workshop is not, they are not going to come up with like 7 changes to War Scrolls in Ironjawz to make the army play better. They're not going to do that. They might make one very small change to enable the army. That's what they might do, right? A very small targeted change. And I agree with that philosophy. Here's another problem with Ironjawz. The big pigs suck. Okay, and because brutes and ardboys are slow, everything that supports them also kind of sucks, right? What good is Zogrok? Like, Zogrok's best use of his ability is on 6 pigs. Of course, because then you can deliver that damage where you want it, when you want it. The ardboy boss, same problem. It's like, well, ardboys are too slow. Like, they don't get into the fight. So, I don't know. That's kind of the problem, right? They're fundamentally too slow. So here's a very simple fix, okay? And I'm going to tell you what the fix is first, and then I'm going to explain why I think it's super good. So in the Ironjawz WA, replace the +1 to charge, right, into run and charge. Instead of +1 charge, you get run and charge. So what would this mean in the army? Well, I think for Gore Gruntas, I think it's just straight up overkill. I don't think it makes Gore Gruntas that much better. To have them, for once per turn, be able to run and charge, like, they have a threat range now of like 31 inches. So it's Mighty Destroyers, plus another 9 for their movement is 18, plus, so 9 plus 9, plus they can run 6, and then let's say they can charge 7 inches, right? This is a 31 threat range in one turn with a 7-inch charge. But your opponent already knows that the pigs can get where they want to go when they want to go already. Like, this doesn't, in my view, I can't think of really what it's overkill for the pigs. It doesn't really make Gore Gruntas any better. It doesn't really make them any better. They were already hypermobile. What this is really doing is it's adding 6 inches onto the threat range. Because before they could go 9 plus 9 plus a 7-inch charge for 25. And now, well, and actually it's +1, right? So it was, because we're assuming this is on the WA turn, right? So they went from a threat range of 26 inches to a threat range of 31 inches. So they're getting +5 threat range. I don't think that is overkill for, like, it's overkill for pigs. I don't think that having this run ability makes the pigs significantly better, okay? But it does make everything else significantly better. Holy jeez. Big pigs are suddenly good. The reason that we play Rabble Rouser is because Rabble Rouser is the only access to run and charge in the entire Auric War Clan's army, right? Even with all the allies, right? This is the only way that you can get run and charge. So if Ironjawz specifically have access to a table-wide once per game run and charge, the big pigs are suddenly good. You need to make no other changes to the big pigs, and then all of a sudden they're gonna work in Ironjawz. Remember, this is like a solution until we get our next book. But suddenly, holy cow, big pigs are playable. Big pigs, I think, might even be better in Ironjawz than they are in the Regiment of Renown because of this change. And they don't get better in Big Wa. This change does not have any impact on any of these units in Big Wa, which is already doing very well. But wow, suddenly I want to play a big pig, even at the point cost that they're at now, because I'm saving 100 points off Rabble Rouser to get the same effect, right? I can run, so I get to roll momentum, I charge, I get to roll momentum, and then I use the heroic actions, which is an additional charge or a strike last. Like wow, all of a sudden I want to play big pigs because they have a once per game run and charge. And the brutes and Ard boys, they get an additional 6 inches. So they're going to go 4, and then they're going to go another 4 with their movement speed, and then they're going to run 6, and then they can re-roll charges. So if you have Skull Shaking Bellow off of a Mega Boss on Maw-Crusha, right? Mighty Destroyer 6-inch run, re-roll charge, that's 3 command points for 3 different units. Like, that's suddenly doable, right? And so Brutes and Ard Boys will have a 21-inch threat range with a 7-inch re-rollable charge. So for that command point. So the gap in between the board, right? So the board width is 44 inches. So if you're playing with an 11-inch deployment zone, the gap is 22 inches, right? So 21 inches, right? So you're looking at an 8-inch charge, right? To get there line to line on turn 1. And if they have a 13-inch deployment zone, well, then that gap is only 21 inches. Like, hello, right? That's a 7-inch charge. Isn't that what we want? Don't we want Brutes and Ard Boys to be able to, like, Alpha Strike? Isn't that kind of what Ironjawz is all about? Suddenly we can move these units much more quickly. And then, of course, you have Get 'em Beat. So something can get in, you could have a triple or a double reinforced unit of Brutes and buff them all up, and on turn 1, in they go. Right, you call the Wa, right? Remember, this is with the Wa, so you're getting that. It's once per game, so you can do this once per game, right? Maybe pigs go in first, and you're looking to set up for a turn 2 Wa. Everything sort of moves up, unpack your stuff a little bit, and then turn 2, you're going in with a bunch of units. You're smashing and bashing, your Wa, your everything, right? You're really gonna make it work. So again, I think this is the easiest, simplest fix. +1 charge gets replaced with run and charge instead. I think you would see the win rates explode for Iron Suns and Dachapas compared to Bloodtooth. It would make a big difference, in my opinion. And the pigs, I think Bloodtooth, and even with this change, is still the best subfaction because the pigs are getting a little bit more move, which is good and fine. And they're also still getting the movement at the end of the combat phase, which is really good. And you're filling up battle lines with really good units. So I still think Bloodtooth is the best, but I think this simple change would make a big impact on Ironjawz. So here's a couple more ideas for the 2 other subfactions, Iron Suns and Dachapas, and this is to make them better relative to Bloodtooth. So for Iron Suns, 3d6 charge in your opponent's turn and Wa turn for Brutes and Ard Boys. So it's like, yeah, they have a 3d6 charge. They have a 3d6 counter charge, and then on the Wa turn they get a 3d6 charge. Like even the Wa turn one might be a little bit overkill, but I feel like maybe a greater counter charge threat range will be more impactful than just 12. So how comfortable do you feel getting within 12 inches of a 3d6 counter charge? If you're setting up for your next turn and you're moving within 12 inches of a reinforced unit of Brutes, it's like suddenly you're like, I don't want to be within that range. I don't want to be within that range. That's a scary range to be in, right? And 18 inches is how far away they can attempt that charge. So I don't know. That's a big counter charge. And I feel like if you extended the range from 12 to 18 inches, that people would like, it would really push enemies back, and you would just get more opportunities to roll more dice. So the problem with Iron Suns right now is that people can just play around it. They can just stay outside of that like 10 to 12 inch range, and even though you're going to get to attempt a charge, it's not very likely. So they can actually get pretty close to you. But now, as soon as they're getting within like that 12, 10 inch range, it starts to feel a lot scarier. And so they're going to stay in that like 15, 16 inch range to make sure that you're not going to connect with your charges. So, and you're going to, like I said before, and I think that's going to be really impactful. I think it's like, you want to step in range to shoot me with a 12 inch shot? Okay. Right? Okay. You better be ready for me to come and get you after, though. Right? And then again, just because if you extend that range to 18 inches, you're just going to roll a lot more dice to countercharge. And sometimes you're going to spike, and you're going to throw these units at them across the board. Like, it's going to feel good. So that's Iron Suns, right? Like countercharge. And so make it better. Make the countercharge threat range more impactful and just better overall. And then then we have Gore Gruntus, which like the Subfaction Bloodtooth, which is all about high mobility piling in pigs. Then you have Iron Suns, who are the countercharge threat range subfaction. And so Dachapa's is Grindhouse. So in Dachapa's, Violent Fury also gives a 6-up ward. Violent Fury also gives a 6-up ward. Dachapa's is, we're going to stand on objectives, you're going to come to us, and then we're going to outgrind you. So it might not be the most competitive list, but it could be very fun, and it would be very different. To be like, well, I'm going to spam a whole bunch of brutes, park them on objectives, or spam a bunch of Ardboys and park them on objectives. And not only is my whole army going to have +1 damage, but also my whole army is going to have a 6-up ward. Come get some. Right? Very different style. Grindhouse. So, you have 3 subfactions, 3 very different play styles, 3 different preferred units, because I think in Dachapa's, if you had a 6-up ward and you wanted to play Grindhouse, you would play a lot more Ardboys. And in Iron Suns, you'd play a lot more Brutes. So, I don't know, let me know what you think. Tell me in the comment section all your wild ideas about how to improve Ironjawz. And tell me why you think this charge ability, or this run in charge instead of +1 is bad. Please let me know. Like, subscribe, wah.